Good morning, everybody. Our listeners and our viewers from all over the world. It's a very good morning here from Sydney, and we have our beautiful Dr. Craig Walsham from New Zealand. So Craig and I have been business partners and friends for the last 2.5 years, and I have found him absolutely inspiring in more than one way. So what I'd like to share with you is, you know what my philosophy is about taking charge of your health naturally. And I like to bring people onto this interview and recording in order to challenge you, to inspire you, to make little changes that in the long term have a great effect on your health. So Craig started his life out in the nursing profession. He's been in various different positions, so he has a wide range of experience. And then he decided to retrain as a chiropractor. And he is a chiropractor of note. He's got wide experience, even personal experience, specifically around cardiology. And he's been in private practice for the last 16 years. So Craig, Dr. Craig, it is my great pleasure to welcome you onto our interview this morning.
Thanks, Margie. That's a lovely introduction.
So possibly because your private practice is very specifically now in chiropractic, and you have a philosophy around natural medicine, why should a patient see a chiropractor?
Well, I think the chiropractic approach actually fits in very nicely with the whole theme of your podcast, and that is chiropractors have a essential belief that your body has an internal ability, an innate ability to regulate itself and to heal itself. And all we have to do is give the body the things that it needs to do the things that it naturally does. And if we do that, then we're by and large going to get positive outcomes. So that's initially what drew me to the chiropractic profession. As a young child, or I was 14, I was into my sport, and I ended up at a chiropractor because I had some issues with my lower back that was restricting me. And it was then that I was first presented with this philosophy of, you know, there's this intelligence that runs the body. There's an intelligence at a cell level that's far greater than our, comprehension, if you like. And that intelligence has been there, since the beginning, and has resulted in our development, if you like, as humans. And so that's really what drew me to chiropractic.
So Dr. Craig, how do you guide and help people to make those lifestyle health changes that they need to make?
It's interesting. Most people come to a chiropractor, their first encounter is usually because they have a back problem or they have a joint problem. And that's what chiropractors are known for. And in fact, when the patient walks in the door, they're often there to get fixed. And chiropractors don't fix anyone. What we do, which sounds weird, I know, because that's what people have got used to, and they're used to being diagnosed with a disease and then being told you have this disease, and so you need to take this tablet in order to get well. The chiropractic approach is quite different from that. It basically, we're not trying to treat anything. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get your body to function by itself so that your level of activity in your daily life is improved. So when people first come, what a chiropractor will do is they will do a thorough history taking and physical exam session, which includes a neurological exam. And then they will look for joints that aren't moving very well, and they will get those joints moving. So chiropractors are very well trained in joint anatomy, physiology, but also in the brain anatomy and physiology, because your joints and your brain are intricately linked. When joints move, it fires receptors. These are called 1A afferents. And those 1A afferents go up and stimulate your brain. And your brain uses the energy that's generated from joint movement to then regulate all the other systems. So this is why you will often hear of people who, they take their child to a chiropractor and they get adjusted and their asthmatic symptoms decrease. Or they will go to a chiropractor and they get adjusted and all of a sudden they get up off the table and they feel the pain's gone, the movement's back, and it's like a miracle. And in practice, chiropractors see this on a regular basis. That's a real positive. The negative is that everyone expects to have that experience when they go to a chiropractor. And so there's a lot of pressure on chiropractors in some ways to perform. But that's basically what happens when someone goes to a chiropractor. The chiropractor is very well trained in getting joints moving through the correct planes of motion. It fires these 1A afferents. That stimulation, afferent meaning going towards the brain, that goes up to the brain, and the brain uses that energy that's generated from the joint movement to then better regulate its systems.
That is such a fabulous explanation, Craig. I've never heard it quite put like that. I know that you have a functional medicine approach to the way you conduct your consultations and practices and so on. But if I was to say to you, is there one thing that you would recommend listeners should do to improve their cellular function? Would that tie in with what you've already explained?
Yeah, it would. I mean, I definitely would recommend that someone finds a practitioner to help guide them and find out what their deficits are. Because once you know what that is, whether that be some genetic stuff, whether that be some other pathological factors that are going on, once you've identified that, you can then formulate a plan going forward about how you're going to improve your health span. Because, we all, hopefully, we all age. If we don't, there's a problem. And with that aging, often is linked with decreased function. And so we know that, after the age of 60, things start to sort of deteriorate. And that last sort of 19 years of someone's life can be problematic. And they become more symptomatic and they lose their function. In other words, their ability to do the things that they love, whether that's walking on the beach, going over the rocks with their grandchildren or throwing the ball, whether it's cycling, whatever their interest is, function starts to decrease. And that will limit your lifestyle. It will limit the things that you're able to do. It will limit your joy. It will limit your ability to be able to be engaged with the world around you, whether that's, grandchildren, loved ones, and it affects all areas of our lives. It affects our mood. It will affect, things like your sexual function. It will affect basically every area in your life. This is going to impact. The problem I see is that as humans, we don't understand that this is going to come around all too quick, and we don't make provisions or have a plan of how we're going to increase our health span. People are very good at creating business plans. They're very good at creating retirement plans. And I hear people say all the time, oh, health is your greatest asset. Well, it is, but people don't do very much in actual fact to ensure that their health span is going to be increased. And I think that's the biggest thing that people can do is find a health practitioner that they can work with. That then leads on to some common themes. And what we know now, the science tells us, is that one of the biggest things that's linked with decreased function is oxidative stress. And while oxidative stress might not be the cause of all disease, and it might not be the cause of things specifically, it's almost always present when we've got poor cell function. And I would, association is not causation, and we must be very, very clear about that. So I'm not saying that oxidative stress is the cause of all disease and all dysfunction throughout the body. But research is identifying oxidative stress as a key factor. And so we need to reduce oxidative stress. Now, the best thing that I have found to reduce oxidative stress that's clinically proven, there's research that backs this up, is a product that you've got in your background there called Protandim. And I use Protandim with my patients. I use it with my family. I use it with anyone who I love and care for. I would recommend that they start taking Protandim. And what Protandim will do is it will reduce oxidative stress at a cellular level by about 40% after the first month. And it will continue to work away over your lifespan for as long as you take that Protandim product. So it's one pill once a day. And that would be the one thing, if you said to me, wow, you know, if you had an amazing ingredient or something special to give to everyone in the world, what would it be? Honestly, for me, in a generic sense, other than getting regular chiropractic adjustments, Protandim, day in, day out.
Dr. Craig, that's fantastic. So we've got, firstly, people need to see a chiropractor regularly to have that adjustment. Secondly, they need to reduce oxidative stress, and you've given them a great option of how they can do that. So if I was to say to you, what are your next top 2 tips for ongoing health, wellness, and longevity, what would they be?
Ooh. Okay, so I think we've been given some very bad advice over the years, and certainly during my lifetime. And that has come from poor science that has come about as a result of this thing of saying that things are causal when in fact they're not the cause of stuff. So a good example of this is that saturated fat has been blamed for a lot of problems. Cardiovascular disease, for example, has been blamed on saturated fat. And in actual fact, there is no research that backs that up. Saturated fat and cardiovascular disease and heart attacks, there actually isn't any direct link at all. And as a result of that belief, we were told to cut saturated fat. We were told to eat more grains. And as a result, we have ended up going away from the type of food that really my grandparents and my great-grandparents would have eaten. These, you know, would have been veggies from the garden and good quality protein sources like meat. Now, I'm not saying that we have to eat tons of meat. I'm not saying that at all, but certainly this kind of leads into the other thing that I've really learned over the years. When I was trained both as a nurse and even in chiro school, my understanding really around insulin was quite limited. I kind of, you know, insulin was for diabetics, right? And if you didn't have diabetes, well, you didn't really have to worry too much about insulin. But what I've really learned, particularly in the last few years with my own health, is that insulin plays a major role in many of the conditions that we experience today. And so if we eat foods like fresh fruit, like fresh vegetables and good quality proteins that have saturated fat in them, or we cook our food with saturated fat, lard, dripping, coconut oil, these types of fats, firstly, they have a very high burning point, so that they're not going to oxidize, which causes oxidative stress, which is what your Protandim helps deal with. But if we use these other more stable fats, the saturated fats, we're going to get a lot better result. We're going to get less oxidative stress. We're going to have less damage on our arteries. And we're also going to keep insulin levels down. And that's really important because insulin plays a vital role in the way our body deals with incoming energy, how that is used at the muscle, and how it is stored inside the body. So that kind of, it's kind of a little bit of a round circle I know that I've gone in, but all these things actually link really, really nicely. So poor science, the science of association, has led us down some, very detrimental paths, I think. And as a result, Westernized society is definitely suffering from this. We have got, more obesity. We have got greater BMIs. While people are living longer, they're not necessarily living healthier. And I started my nursing job, my first nursing position was in geriatrics, gerontology. And I learned so much from seeing just how well people age or how well they don't age, towards the end of their life. And I got to spend a lot of time speaking with elderly folk about their life experience. And that's definitely left a lasting impression on me.
Dr. Craig, you just mentioned something which hit a note for me, which I think I should share with our listeners. It's a little story. May I tell that little story? Craig and I were just having a conversation like we are today. And he looked at me and he said, Margie, what's your BMI? And I thought, Dr. Craig, that's jolly rude. I know I'm a bit overweight. That's not really very nice. And he turns his back on me and goes on to his computer. He says, how old are you? How much do you weigh? Blah, 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 blah. Asked me all these questions, which if any of you consult with him, he's going to ask you a lot of questions. I promise you that. And he turned back to me and he said, Margie, you have to lose 22 kilos in 4 months. And I looked at him, I said, Craig, how can I do that? And I just want to tell you what he told me. He said, you need to go on the basic keto plan with, what was the other thing you told me, Craig, that I'm doing at the moment?
Yeah, restrictive eating, intermittent fasting. Yeah.
So, Craig, would you like to perhaps explain just a little bit more? Because I've been on the program now for 5 weeks and I've lost 5 kilos. I've lost inches all down. I must say the biggest breakthrough for me was the sugar craving vanished within 48 hours. Yeah. And I'm never, ever hungry. So where I was continually looking for food, it's gone. So I can't say it's been difficult. It's challenging as I'm reaching a bit of a plateau. But Dr. Craig, I am so grateful that you were so honest with me to say, take charge of your health naturally.
Oh, that's wonderful, Margie. I'm really pleased. That's fantastic news. Yeah, I mean, this links in with what I was saying before, is that understanding, I guess, what are the drivers? What are the things that we are doing that we thought we were doing because it was meant to be healthy for us? So one of the things that we've been told for many, many years is eat small meals and eat them often. And that will give us a steady supply of energy going in. But in actual fact, what it does is it makes us insulin resistant. Humans weren't actually designed to be eating all the time. Over the years, we have experienced a lot of famine. And, if we just look back, to the 19th century and we look at periods around World War II, we know that people that were alive around the time of World War II suffered a decrease in food. Things like grains were not easily accessible. And these people, when they didn't eat a lot, it triggered a series of genes called the sirtuin genes. These are the long life genes that are activated when we don't eat. And So those genes are triggered also by our insulin levels. And so it becomes this sequence of events. If we want to actually live longer and live well, then we need to stop eating as often as we do. And one of the things I've realized for me personally was that, like you, Margie, I was quite often hungry. And the reason I was hungry was because I was doing a lot of, eating the things that I thought was healthy, including, fruit and grains and vegetables. The problem was I wasn't getting enough fats, and I was getting too much of this other stuff too often. And so despite always being active, despite always being very focused on my health, and being, really quite restrictive in many, many areas, I was still tended to be overweight, to be chubby, to be inflamed. And this is what I worked out, was that I'm doing something wrong. If you're not getting the results that you want, then you need to make some changes. And what I realized was the advice that I had been receiving, and in fact, the advice that I'd been giving others, was in fact flawed. And that's quite hard to accept. But believe it or not, I've experienced 5 heart attacks now. And so I knew that what I was doing was not working the way that I needed it to, and that if I didn't get it right, it could cost me my life. So I guess I'm very, very invested in my own health, because what I do know is that, life is very, very short, and we're a long time dead. So my plan is to try and be around for as long as I can, and to be as healthy and well as I can, because of course I don't want to be a burden to those who are close to me.
Dr. Craig, you've shared so many pearls of wisdom with us this morning. What I'd like to just ask you is, if any of our listeners and people listening to the recording have a question for you, or would like to share something for some advice from you, because you've just covered so much, how is best for that to take place?
Look, they're welcome to contact me via my email. So that's Dr. Craig at Chiroworks or Dr. Craig at Cellworks.co.nz. Either of those addresses will work. And I'll be happy to engage with you, and maybe set up a Zoom call, and we can have a talk about any pressing issues. A 15-minute talk. One of the big things that I realized as a nurse and a chiropractic practitioner is that so often today people go off and see, for example, their medical doctor, and they're limited to a time slot of 10 minutes. They get to talk about one issue. Anything more than they're going to get charged. But of course, your health is a lot bigger than just like one issue. So, but if you have got some concerns, if you would like to talk to someone, then I'm happy to do that for free, for 15 or so minutes via a Zoom call. And I can tell you now, what I'm going to be encouraging you to do is to find a practitioner that you can work with. If it's not me, and I'm not everyone's cup of tea, believe me, I'm not, then that's okay. There will be someone that will be your, cup of tea, and that you will enjoy working with to help improve your health span.
Well, Dr. Craig, I just want to thank you so much. That is a very generous offer, and I so appreciate that for our viewers and listeners to be able to take advantage of that. So from us, we're going to say goodbye and thank you so much. We might have to have you back again at a later stage, because there's probably lots more that you could share with us. Thanks, Dr. Craig.
Thank you, Margie.